When you think things are bad, never forget that they can get worse. This article from Globo is proof of that. On one side, you have Lionel Scaloni and on the other, Luis de la Fuente. These two coaches have the World Cup final in common. The 2022 champion who ended up in second place. Lionel Scaloni, the Argentine coach, leading Argentine players, playing typical Argentine football, was successful and today became the runner-up. They made it to the end. On the other side, the champion, Luis de la Fuente, the Spanish coach, playing typically Spanish football with a team full of Spanish players. Without a shadow of a doubt, we can say they are the greatest living coaches today. And do you know what they have in common? If you add the two together, it doesn't even come close, not even double. It's still less than what we pay our gold-plated coach, Ancelotti. As you can see, Rede Globo itself, one of the main ones responsible for putting it in Brazilians' heads that we needed Europeans to win, is now openly showing this truth. With each passing day, more and more people are starting to question what happened to our national team. I start this video by asking you a question. How much does failure cost? This isn't a philosophical question. It's a mathematical, financial, and moral question. If you work at a company and deliver the worst result in years, what happens? You get fired. If you run a business and spend 3 times more than your competitors to deliver a worse service, your business goes bankrupt. But there is a place in the world where the higher the cost, the less accountability there is. A place where inefficiency is not only tolerated, but is funded at an exorbitant cost. The World Cup has come to an end. On the field, we saw Spain lift the trophy under the leadership of Luis de la Fuente. We saw Argentina play in another final under the leadership of Lionel Scaloni, 2 coaches at the top of world football. But do you know the most shocking part of this story? If you add the salary of the World Cup winning coach to the salary of the World Cup runner-up coach, together they don't even make half of what Carlo Ancelotti of the Brazilian national team earns. That smile hides an unbelievable truth. Brazil paid more than double the combined salary of the 2 finalists of the biggest tournament on the planet. And what did they get in return? An early elimination in the round of 16. Today we're going to talk about what this number really means. Because this isn't just about soccer. This is the blatant portrait of a third world country that loves to show off what it doesn't have. A reflection of its own population. And since there's no time to waste, I already know you're more than a little curious. Grab your avocado smoothie and that good old egg and sausage sandwich and let's start our segment, Señores do Mundo. Señores do Mundo. Gentlemen, let's set the record straight and take a look at the recently released data. On one side of the table, we have Lionel Scaloni, world champion, 2-time Copa America champion, with an annual salary of about 2.3 million euros. That's a lot of money. On the other side, Luis de la Fuente, European champion and world champion, his annual salary is about 2 million euros. Adding up the 2 most successful current national team coaches in football, we have about 4.3 million euros per year. Now look at the Brazilian Football Confederation. The CBF decided to pay Carlo Ancelotti the hefty sum of 10 million euros per year. That means about 60 million reais per year. 5 million reais per month, more than 160,000 reais per day. Making money, my friend, is not a crime. I'm in favor of capitalism, and you know that. Carlo Ancelotti is one of the greatest coaches in the history of European club football, with 5 Champions League titles. He charges what he thinks he's worth. The problem isn't the coach accepting the offer. The problem is the mentality of those who pay. Brazilian soccer convinced itself that the only way to win again was by hiring the priciest name on the international market. Convinced even by the mainstream media and especially Rede Globo. People were led to believe that putting an Italian suit on the bench would magically solve decades of disorganization, tactical incompetence, lack of planning, and why not remember our last video about the major corruption schemes? Several CBF presidents were fired and involved in outrageous schemes. And what was the result of all this mess? A lethargic team with no identity, eliminated before the tournament even really heated up. Brazil paid the highest salary in the history of national team football for mediocre performance. I'm Brazilian, but I have to admit it. That's why other nations laugh at us. We're a joke right now. If this were a private company, the board of directors would have been fired for reckless management. But in Brazilian football, and in the mentality of our elites, other people's money belongs to no one. But now I want to take it a step further. Why does the news from O Globo newspaper not make me outraged just because of football? I'm outraged by what the symbol represents. What kind of country do we live in? Brazil is a country where more than 30 million people don't have access to clean water. It's a country where almost half the population, that means 100 million Brazilians, don't have adequate sanitation. People who live with open sewage at their doorstep in the 21st century. Brazil is the country that has one of the highest tax burdens in the developing world. The average citizen works almost 5 months of the year just to pay taxes. Taxes on food, on medicine, on fuel, on electricity. And where does that money go? It goes to cover privileges, bloated public sector salaries, government inefficiency, and budget deficits. Then there's always some smart aleck who says, but the CBF is a private entity. It doesn't use taxpayers' money. Really? Let's analyze that statement calmly. The CBF survives on tax exemptions, sponsorships from state-owned companies, or multinationals that use Brazil's image. From the use of public stadiums built with billions of public funds for the 2014 World Cup, for example. Stadiums that to this day are white elephants maintained by taxpayers in several states. More than that, the CBF is the guardian of the greatest cultural heritage of the Brazilian people, which is the national team. When the organization that represents the most popular sport in a poor country decides to throw away 60 million reais a year on the salary of just one person, while the country sinks in structural problems, this is not just a financial choice. It's a declaration of moral alienation. It's the Brazil of the VIP box laughing in the face of the Brazil on the crowded bus. We've developed a bizarre syndrome in Brazil, a mania for grandeur without any foundation. We love to behave as if we were Switzerland or Germany when it comes to spending, while delivering services like Sierra Leone. We designed billion-real arenas in capitals where there is no relevant professional soccer, but we don't have funds to renovate the ICU of the regional hospital. We pay the highest subsidies and the largest office allowances on the planet to politicians. But we say there are no resources to pave the roads that transport agricultural production. And in soccer, we replicate exactly the same flawed logic. We believe that spending more is synonymous with efficient management, but it's not. It never was. Argentina, facing a devastating economic crisis for years, put together a coherent football project under Scaloni. A young coach, not famous, but committed to the game plan and to his country's identity. The result? He won everything. Spain restructured its entire youth system. They invested in methodology and in developing young talents. And they appointed Luis de la Fuente, a low-profile coach but incredibly efficient. The result? He won everything. Brazil thought it was enough to pull out the checkbook. They thought paying 10 million euros a year would buy them a 6th World Cup title. They forgot that soccer is about work, discipline, tactical conviction, and process management. Money buys the name on the jersey, but it doesn't buy commitment on the field. That's the big lesson that soccer teaches us, and that Brazilian politics refuses to learn. An excess of resources doesn't make up for a lack of character and absence of methods. Think about this with me, my brother. What message does this situation send to you? To me? To the Brazilian worker? The message is simple. In Brazil, failure has no cost for those at the top. If the team loses, the coach leaves with his pockets full of millions. The executive keeps his job, enjoys private jets and luxury hotels, and you, as a fan and a citizen, are left footing the bill for that frustration. Some people who lose control will even keep paying the installments on the TV they smashed in anger over the national team's poor performance. There were several videos of people destroying, stomping on, and burning their own household appliances. We've gotten used to accepting the absurd. We accept paying the highest gas prices in the region, even though there's plenty of oil here in the country. We accept paying income tax on wages that haven't kept up. We accept poor public services. And now we even accept that the Brazilian national team has become a marketplace for astronomical deals, with no sporting results whatsoever. The news that Ancelotti's salary is double the sum of the two World Cup finalist coaches is not just a sports curiosity to spark roundtable debates. It's a symptom of a sick country. A country that prioritizes appearance over essence, that prefers the pomp of an international brand to the hard work of rebuilding from the ground up. My friends, as long as we don't learn to demand efficiency, whether it's from the CBF, the National Congress, or our local city hall, we'll keep being the country of the future that never arrives. Soccer is often a reflection of society, and the reflection the World Cup showed us this year is not a pretty one. It showed a millionaire institution disconnected from the reality of its own people, spending indecent fortunes just to interact, and delivering one of the worst campaigns in recent history. Meanwhile, nations with infinitely smaller budgets and cheaper coaches are giving lessons in organization, planning, and passion for the sport. It's time to stop applauding the circus when there's no bread on the table. It's time to understand that money without management is just waste. And in Brazil, unfortunately, waste has become the rule. And I've already made this statement, and I ask you again. Do you agree that when politics is going well, soccer also goes well? Leave your answer in the comments. If you agree with everything you've seen here, please leave a comment, even if you disagree. This helps a lot so we can keep making this kind of video, which you can imagine is not easy at all. This video ends here. I thank you for your attention and ask you to share it. Show it to more people. Even those who say, I don't want to know about soccer, I'm not interested, explain it to them, my brother. This has nothing to do with soccer. No, the topic you just saw has to do with the people, with the mentality and the culture that these people have accepted. God bless you. Hugs, and we keep going together, facing the supernatural here on Encarando O Sobrenatural Official.